Welcome to Village Talk Podcast with hosts Cortland Jones and Shauna Felton King. Village Talk highlights the views and voices of the community. And now your hosts, Cortland Jones and Shauna Felton King.
Hello, everybody. Hello. Happy New Year and welcome to a new episode of Village Talk, where we highlight the voices and views of the community. 2021. Wow, we didn't think we would make it, but we are here. And Shauna, my co-host, is here with us. Say hello, Shauna.
Hey, Cortland. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year. I am excited. Out of all the challenging things that we could have or did not foresee experiencing in 2020, one thing we can say that was positive was the launch of our podcast. And here we are still at the beginning of 2021. We are still broadcasting.
Yeah, with the shut in or lockdown or quarantine, as you would say, we've got some folks who tune into us, and all of us, we're getting a little bit more airtime of who's out there and listening to different things. So we definitely want to start 2021 with thanking those who've been tuning into Village Talk and knowing that even the previous episodes are still available, so that they have opportunity to do that as well. So excited.
Yes. And when I hear you say that, when you talk about reflecting on where we began our journey in 2020 and where we are currently, it makes me think about our topic today, Rearview Expectancy.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, if you think about Rearview Expectancy, so it's January 2021, right? And so what do you mean when we say Rearview Expectancy? Tell us about what we're talking about today.
Yeah, Rearview Expectancy. Well, I've never been one for resolutions.
Why not?
Believe it or not, it's simply because I have never been one to consistently keep up with what my mind said I needed to do.
I hear you.
So there was no need to keep making resolutions because I wasn't consistent in following through or whatever it was. However,
but you're not the only one, right? Most resolutions by Valentine's Day are gone. Most people begin to fade away from them anyway. So you are not alone in that. And so don't feel bad about not making resolutions.
Well, that's good because in my reflection, I can see that resolutions just didn't work for me.
Okay.
But when I think about Rearview Expectancy, as I've gotten older, I think about intentional reflection on the past, not on a particular moment that promotes sadness or discouragement, but intentional reflection on the past that inspires hope for the future.
Oh, okay.
So whatever I'm reflecting on, it's galvanizing me instead of causing me to shrink back in fear and hopelessness.
Well, now, if you had said that in January 2020, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay, you take your lessons and stuff like that. But come on, 2020 was a year, wasn't it?
Oh, I anticipated because of 2019. I was looking forward to 2020 from a professional, personal business perspective, thinking things were going to continue as far as momentum. And because of, COVID, no, that didn't happen.
But most years, if you think about what we do most years, don't we say, hey, next year I'm going to get even better. And next year I'm going to get even better. And each year is supposed to be a higher height from the previous year. I don't know, going into 2021, the reflection of looking back is a little different.
So in what you're saying, I think what I discovered was questions to be asked of myself.
Okay.
That I can identify measurable ways by which I can see growth or achievement or success related to this rearview expectancy that I'm talking about. And I have 4 questions here. And after I share them, then you can pick one to answer, and then I'll do the same. So with this rear view expectancy or this intentional reflection on the past, what did I learn? How have I grown? What are my goals moving forward? And where did God reveal himself to me? And I'll repeat that. What did I learn? How have I grown? What are my goals moving forward? And where did God reveal himself to me?
Those are wonderful reflection questions. And then anybody who's going into the new year could take those. And, I'm just going to start with that first one, which I think is a real good one, is what have we learned? And, if you look back at 2020, anybody who comes out of 2020 saying they didn't learn anything, I'm like, were you awake? Good, bad, or indifferent.
Right.
I think all of us can say that in the last 12 months, there's something that's probably a little different about us. We've experienced something a little differently than where we were this time last year. So for me, what I can say I have learned is that there are only a few things that are really, really important, right? Because I'm a bit consumed with a lot of different things. I have a lot of interests. I'm involved with a lot of different things, and I enjoy being, I won't say busy, but involved in a lot of things. And so when you're like us, where we're involved in our hands in a lot of different things, sometimes we think everything is super important. Everything is at the top of the list. And what I learned in 2020 is a lot of that is just stuff.
Yeah.
Now definitely I'm a woman of purpose, of not just waking up and having nothing to do today, but there are things that I can now say, at the end of the day, these are the things that are really, really important. And once I, rank those and categorize what's really important in my life, everything else is stuff. And I don't ever want any of my stuff to cause me to cause something that should be on my really, really important list out of order. And everybody has to figure out what those things are for themselves. But, that's what I would say is what I've learned is there are only a few things for me that are really, really important.
Yeah.
How about you?
I can relate to what you're saying because, I was talking about retirement like it was getting ready to happen tomorrow. And then I discovered I couldn't. But my mom being sick and her declining health made it real clear what was important to me because I was going to retire just to make sure that I could support her. And she's still doing well. And I'm thankful for that. But that moment made me decide for myself, as you're saying, what truly was important. I would say the biggest lesson I learned from 2020 was twofold. One was to continue practicing gratitude. That started in 2018, but I could see in the midst of the pandemic how important it was to appreciate the little things, to appreciate the things that were happening every day that made you still have a positive mindset about the day. And so I don't know if you've ever noticed, but when I respond to people by email or text, I specifically say enjoy today. And that's because that's where I had gotten to. It was important to learn how to enjoy today. And it actually, there's a commercial, I think I've shared this with you. Liberty Mutual has this commercial where they want to take you back to get an idea of how important something like that is, but they do it in a funny kind of way. It's two children during Christmas, and one of them gets Liberty Mutual insurance, and he's all excited, and he's talking to his parents about his gift. And the other child, when they ask him, what did he get? He was like, I got a bike, and he kicked it, and he just walked off. And it made me realize, like, that was my attitude before 2018. I had gotten to a point where I wasn't appreciating, even though God was doing great things in my life, I wasn't really appreciating it like I should have. And so that motivated me to shift my mindset to being more grateful. And then the murder of George Floyd, I remember saying to myself, no, I cannot continue to remain in this state of depression surrounding the trauma and the traumatic event of his misfortune. Though difficult and unfortunate, what happened to him was, I personally could not allow myself to emotionally be held hostage in that place, because I was coming out of my own state of depression of things that had happened to me in my personal life. And I felt like that was making me go back. I could see the emotion associated with depression. And I was like, no, I cannot do this. So not allowing what's out of my control to rule how I feel. I think everything associated with George Floyd was very traumatic and unfortunate, but things that are out of my control, I can't let them rule how I feel.
You know, that's and that really is what stress is. Stress is when you're dealing with things that are focusing on things that are out of your control. And we know about, the circle of control and then even the circle of influence. How do you stay in that level of influence? And so when we look back, 2020, taught us so much, so many lessons. And so, I'm curious about like right now, because that really would be the next step. And especially when you're talking about George Floyd, as we're recording this, the invasion of the Capitol just happened.
Yeah.
And seeing where we are even as a country, the outrage and the response of evaluating what happened, why was it allowed to happen,
Right.
and then just the feelings, and then even how seeing it on the screens, there are people now who we're saying, okay, how can you explain this? There's no other explanation for what you see now. So our country is in an interesting place, but then individually we're all in a place now. I had to have conversations with my two adolescents today who, of course, yesterday were, on social media, as many of them are, and hearing different reports. And as you talked about trauma, that is something that can even instigate in children a level of trauma, seeing this is the world that we're dealing with, what's going on, and the visuals and stuff like that. So even as we are today, being able to look in that rearview mirror and then say, take a state of where we are right now, and I'm curious, and we may have to do this after our break, but, looking at where we are now, but then still looking forward with expectation. We want to do that. But, Cortland, if I had to be honest with you, look, and I'll ask you too, is there some uncertainty about our right now? I mean, we have faith in God. We do that. But when we look around, we're probably not alone in saying there's some uncertainty about what is to come and what is our present for. Everybody's been saying, hey, I can't wait to get to 2021, but we have no clue, right, what 2021 has in store for us.
Yeah, and I think it's a new level of learning to adapt to reality, your own humanity, the fragility of life, and then also from an eternal perspective, your own mortality. When you start seeing stuff like what's happening currently in our nation, it causes you to think more about your end, how your life will expire. Just simply as you grow older, you kind of think of eternity more than life. When you're younger, you're just thinking about life. And unfortunately, it causes you to worry or be concerned about your own mortality and well-being. And so when you shared that, one of the things that I thought about recently was recognizing the need to just rest in God, to rest in his faithfulness and his care for me and his love for me. And I think that's part of why I had the reaction as it relates to George Floyd and the murder of George Floyd, is because I don't want to spend my life in fear about my life. And so there has to be some measure of taking control of the